What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are here during the Survivor hiatus to talk about one of the new shows that just came back this week. Today we are going to talk about Deal or No Deal Island Season 2, the premiere episode. So, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and this is my first time watching Deal or No Deal Island, and so I had a really fun time kind of discovering what the show is going to be about because Rachel's like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" And I was like, "I guess." But now I'm bought in. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I watched season 1 like last month, so December, not when it was airing last year during the first season of Deal or No Deal Island. And just like hearing people talk about Deal or No Deal Island, I was like, this seems sort of dumb. Like Rob is just doing another show. Like it's not going to be a good show. But then I watched season 1 and I was like, wow, this is actually really good. Boston Rob ran laps around all those people in season 1, and I think like having him on season 1 really made it a good show because it created a lot of the strategy for the show. But I'm like, this is a good show. It's got good strategy. It's got fun drama. I think everyone should watch DONDI.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too because like I never really watched the television show Deal or No Deal. I like figured out the rules playing an arcade version of Deal or No Deal. And so like I only knew the rules to this game because I like was at an arcade and they had a Deal or No Deal like game that you could play. So I kind of liked the fact that they like didn't bother over explaining the whole premise of Deal or No Deal and just trusted that their audience would know what was going on, because I feel like if you spent like 10 minutes explaining and you pick a case and you're trying to do like it would have lost people. So I really like the way they kind of just like threw you in and expected you to figure out the rules rather than like hand holding you through all of it.
True. I feel like the premise of the game at the end of each episode, the actual Deal or No Deal game, hopefully is a little bit self-explanatory. I feel like some of like the strategy for how you play the game at the end of each episode, we'll talk about it, but it's sort of like for the actual Deal or No Deal opening the cases at the end of each episode. But yeah, I also played one of these games at an arcade, and there's a lot of YouTube videos online of how you can like rig the Deal or No Deal arcade game to win.
I should have watched one of those YouTube videos before doing the arcade game. Okay, wish I had known about that. I did think
Next
it was
time.
interesting. I'm not sure if this is just for this episode or like it's part of the format of the show, but like they didn't end the episode with the person who was leaving the island leaving the island. Like there was like a solid like 5 to 10 minutes afterwards of people like still talking, and I was like, what's going on? So that was an interesting part of the game, but yeah.
And so this season, season 2, we've got a famous Survivor player, Parvati. I guess, Alyssa and I very familiar since that's our channel here, Survivor Scholars. We also have David from Australian Survivor, and I've seen his Australian Survivor seasons. I also watched when he was on the Australian Celebrity Apprentice. I'm a big David fan. I think he's so smart, so good at these strategy games. So I'm so excited to see him here. And then at the end of this episode, we see Dr. Will, who is famous on Big Brother, coming into the show. So I'm like, wow, 3 icons. This is so freaking exciting. And Dr. Will coming out of his like TV show retirement to actually play a game here.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that was exciting for me, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is the fact that it seems like people don't know that David is a reality TV icon because he's from Australia, and there's a lot of like US Survivor fans who are only interested in US Survivor. So, like, I think it'll be interesting to see how long he is able to play under the radar. I'm assuming not very long since Dr. Will is coming in, and he seems much less willing than Parvati was to be like, I'll lay low. I won't say anything about you. So,
It'll be a sad day when the icons start to turn on each other. I'm like, you gotta plot armor each other. Just get a little bit further, and then you can turn on each other. That's why I really loved this episode, seeing David and Parvati team up. I'm like, yes, This is great for our Survivor bingo cards. Also, this is going to be a good year because Australian Survivor versus the World is also coming this year. And like Parvati's on that, David's on that, a bunch of other US survivors are on that. So I was like, wow, we are really eating good this year. All these like crossovers are happening. It's going to be so fun.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like part of the reason why David and Parvati were willing to like call a truce with each other is because it's not really fun to steamroll over everybody else, I don't think. Like, yeah, it might be nice as far as like getting the money at the end, but like you don't want to like be out there and just be bored the whole time. So I feel like it's one of those things where it's great for them to like have someone else who's on their level. And like they were talking about, kind of the idea of, are we going to school these kids, or are we just going to like run all over them together? And I assume that second place in Deal or No Deal Island is still a fair chunk of change. So
I think it might be not. I think only the like last person standing wins anything.
that seems wrong. So
But no, I agree. I think like David and Parvati, they both know that the other is really smart, and I agree with you. I think it'd be more fun to like school people and play with another intelligent person that's good at social strategy games rather than being the only person there that's good at the games, and then you're like, "Oh, I don't have anyone to strategize with because no one is thinking on our level."
mm-hmm. Plus, also, it can be hard to play games with people who aren't good at strategizing, because then you never know what they're going to do next. Like someone who's predictable in the sense that they're always going to do what's best for their game is better to play with than someone who is kind of dumb. Because, like we saw this episode, the person who went out basically sent themselves out. So,
It was
yeah.
so bad. But I'm really excited to see David and Parvati this season. I hope they can make it far into this game so we can see them more on our TV. I feel like they're like the man and woman versions of each other. They're both just so charming. They both have so much riz. They're both so attractive. They're both so smart at these games. And I'm like, wow, I'm so excited to see how they like play off of one another.
Yeah, I think it's also really nice that they're both aware of each other's strengths. Where like David was like, Parvati might be eating me alive because that's what she does. And then Parvati was like, David's just so charming. And like the idea that they're not being played by each other, like they are fully well aware of the fact that the other person could be playing them, but they're deciding to work with each other anyway. So
Fanboying, fangirling over another legend from a different version of the same show. Always fun. I also think this season of Deal or No Deal Island will be fun because it's the biggest prize pot ever. So this is like, okay, they're alluding to this is the largest ever amount of money won in like a single reality show. So I'm like, okay, apparently like someone won $4.93 million on Jeopardy. Squid Game, not like the Netflix one, but like the actual in-person Squid Game, someone won 4.56 million. So it's crazy that someone at the end of this could be winning like over $5 million. And that's a single person. Like that is freaking wild.
I think it's also wild because they are starting with a prize pot of $1. And so, but I guess when you do the math, when you think about it, like they have the potential to add $1 million every time someone gets eliminated. And there's how many people? I think 20, 18, somewhere between 18 and 20 people on the show. I think it's 18 because I think there's 2 domes of 4 and 2 domes of 5. And so it's like if you 18 times 1 million is $18 million, just doing that math. So yeah.
Yeah. Might be less people. I thought there was only 3 domes, but they have literally the opportunity to change their lives. And then just like looking at the cast right now, I feel like it could like someone like David totally would be ballsy enough to try to like risk it to get more money at the end when he's playing the banker at that final Deal or No Deal game. Or I could see someone like Dr. Will doing that. I feel like Philip this episode seems like someone that would like risk it for the biscuit as well. So I'm like, okay, what kind of person's personality that we're going to see throughout the season that they would continue to like risk it at that final game to try to win over 5 million. I'm like, this is going to be so good.
I just counted on the Wikipedia page and there's 14 of them. So I guess I just am bad at math or accidentally counted one of the domes twice. So
yeah, and also it was interesting. So I was looking up like the biggest prize pots ever. And so on Wikipedia, it said as of May 2024, the top 3 winners in American game show history all earned the majority of their winnings from Jeopardy. So I was like, that's I thought that was fascinating. That Jeopardy has a lot of rich people coming off of it, which makes sense because you can play so many times and then the money would like rack up. I was like, oh, I wouldn't think Jeopardy has all the rich people.
well, even then, they're probably not that rich because a lot of the people who play Jeopardy are like, like not people with like very high paying jobs. So, but yeah, I think it's very interesting because, like you said, with Jeopardy, some of the people who get rich on Jeopardy, it's because they were on Jeopardy for like 40 games in a row or something wild like that. Whereas, like with Deal or No Deal Island, if you are making the equivalent of 40 days of Jeopardy from one game of Deal or No Deal Island, like, yeah, that's a lot of money.
No, yeah, like we just said, 4.93 is the most winningest contestant ever in any like reality TV show, and he's the highest earning Jeopardy contestant too, 4.9 million. And then the second highest earning Jeopardy contestant's 4.3 million. Then third is like 2.9 million. Like that's crazy. It's like you got to be so smart to be on Jeopardy. Like Drew from Survivor was on Jeopardy. He had a pretty good run. But yeah, imagine $5 million. That's crazy.
I would love $5 million. So
yeah, we also see in this episode that Joe, the host, says that the banker is a woman. Last season, they revealed it in the finale that the banker was Howie Mandel, who is the actual host of the Real Deal or No Deal TV game. So this time, saying it's a woman. Any thoughts on that, Alyssa? Any guesses?
my favorite was when someone was like, I bet it's Beyonce. Yeah, I don't really know just because I feel like we don't really have any hints as to like who it might be. So I feel like, did they give hints last season? Like, oh, it's Howie Mandel, or did he just like reveal himself at the end with no hints whatsoever?
Just revealed at the end with no hints, but like, yeah, season 1, you're probably thinking it's Howie. People are thinking maybe it was the season 1 winner who was a woman and maybe she's come back to be the banker, but that might be a little bit like, okay, then every season it's just going to be the winner of the previous season. Other people are thinking maybe it's someone that's also famous on like the NBC network, and then they're just going to come in and like reveal themselves as the banker at the end. But it really is like, okay, this like omnipresent force. Like Howie didn't do anything last season. It's just like the like name of the banker calling them in the episode. So it's not really like they're in the show, you know?
Yeah, I think it would be more fun if like there were hints to the baker. I just did what he did, where his Wisconsin accent makes it sound like he's saying baker instead of banker. I think it would be more fun if there were like hints to the banker and that was a mystery you were trying to solve in addition to like playing the game. But I get why they don't do that because the contestants probably have enough to think about already. But
yeah, make it like the Masked Singer, but then if you guess the banker correctly by the end, maybe like you get $10,000. So then you don't have to go home empty-handed.
yeah, that would be fun.
So overall, though, I thought the music choice felt very White Lotus-y. If you've seen that show, it really felt like the music from season 2 of The White Lotus. Like, yeah, I like the music choice this episode.
Yeah, I haven't seen The White Lotus, so I cannot comment on whether or not it sounds like The White Lotus, but I did enjoy the music choice.
Yeah, so we get to the first challenge of the season. There's like this big triangle frame in the middle of the water. You have the red cases, you have the high cases, and then like the medium low cases, where the lowest combined case value for your team, that one person from that team is up for elimination. Then they could go home. If they make a bad deal with the banker, then they are sent packing. Here, though, I feel like taking those low cases, it's probably the safest. You probably won't get them stolen unless, you're Luke here. And then you'd be safe in the middle because red cases and high cases are low-key dangerous. Because if the red case people are smart, they would always just steal and swap with the high cases, which would automatically usually make red cases always safe, high cases always up for elimination.
I gotta say, I feel like it was a strategic blunder by David to put himself in the red case team with people he didn't know, because you don't know that they're going to be they're actually going to play it smart. Because like you said, it should be a case where like the red cases can always win unless you have someone like Luke. And so I feel like that was a little bit of a strategic blunder, but it was okay for him in the end because Luke is just kind of dumb. So
True, but I guess I feel like you can't fault any of the red case people because how would you expect someone to just like not understand it so much? I was dumbfounded, but like maybe you would have realized, okay, David is like, no, we should wait up here so we can see who grabs what cases. Luke immediately goes on the zip line so quick, doesn't see anything. Seychelle also just goes, but she maybe thought Luke or David was telling her to go, so then she goes, and then David's like, I'm with a bunch of dummies here.
the Three Stooges, I think he calls them. So yeah. I also thought it was interesting because after they all get their cases, the high case people are like, hey, we'll give you the case that puts both of us in the top two spots so that the low case people are the bottom. And then David was just like, nah, I don't think so. So
Yeah, I feel like watching them grab the case, it sort of becomes moot anyways and random because, like we saw, David just stays up there to watch, and then Parvati realizes, okay, David's trying to see who grabs what. Like, we can't, like, wait, or we need to switch them up. So it's like, okay, it's always going to be random. It's not like you can watch, and maybe high case people don't realize and then they don't switch the cases out. But I feel like usually you'd be like, okay, we should maybe switch it up. Or you're thinking, like David was thinking, Letty wouldn't give up $1 million. That's so much power in the game. Why would she give it up and then still try to pick her because you saw her take that one?
I thought David was going to call the double bluff and was going to be like, well, if I were Letty, I wouldn't let go of the $1 million, which means that she probably did let go of it because she doesn't want, I would have logicked myself in circles with that one. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it sort of ends up being random anyways of like who out of the 4 high case people you're going to pick. Sydney can't do the jumping. I was surprised she didn't like break her mouth or teeth and start bleeding because she had some rough hits on those lily pads.
Thought it was interesting that she said that she used to be a cheerleader because I feel like you would have good jumping muscles as a cheerleader. But I guess also it's probably different when everything is wet and you're in a high intensity situation. So
Yeah, Letty's comment about the wipeout was funny, which then reminded me of Mo from Survivor, who couldn't jump more than like 2 inches off the ground. And then I was like, oh, Mo is like Sydney. Sydney can't really do that forward jump, and Mo couldn't jump up and down. But Mo was on wipeout also. So I was like, oh, it's like full circle here. And they've got the same kind of red hair.
Yeah. But I mean, it ended up working out okay for Sydney because she did make it across the lily pads and she did get the $1 million. So
Yeah. So everyone gets back to the island, and then Joe has all of the low value case people. They open up all those cases. They've got $1.6 million. Then they go to the red cases and Luke gets the steal. I'm like, okay. He then chooses to take the highest case that he can see from the low team, which was $450,000, which I was like, am I misinterpreting how this game works? I thought every single high case is all higher than any of the low cases. So just pick any random of the 4 high cases and you're going to be better than any of the low cases. Makes no sense to pick 450.
Yeah, he was like, well, I want to go with the highest one that I can see. And I was like, but for why? You know that all of the like higher cases are going to be higher than that. Like maybe if like there was one high case that they knew was going to be 0 or something. But like, huh?
That's what I thought too. I was like, maybe I just misheard the rules of the game or missaw the cases that Parvati's team was getting. Cause I was like, pretty sure like their lowest was only 600K. So any one of the 4 of Parv's team that you take is higher than 450. It was just so bad. I was like, what is happening here?
It was so confusing. So
Yeah. I'm surprised like David or Seychelles, they didn't be like, yo, bro, what are you talking about? All of those
I
4
think
cases are all higher, and he just didn't understand, it seems like. I was like,
I think
what
they
is
did
happening?
try to tell him that, and he just didn't listen to them.
Like,
So
basic math.
basic math, I guess. I mean, I feel like I would be more upset about this outcome if Luke didn't send himself home. Like if Seychelles or David went home because of this, I would be annoyed by that. But the fact that like he just sent himself home with that one, I'm kind of like, okay, that's
Me
fine.
too. I'd be low-key pissed off if he sent Seychelles home or if he sent David home after all these shenanigans. I'm like, yo, mistake after mistake here. So he picks a 450 and David's like, WTF. So Seychelles gets the really low case, doesn't really do anything. David gets the like the swap trade, the swap one. So David, basically, you've got like 1 in 4 chance of getting the million. He truly thinks that Letty has the 1 million still. Um, but also, it's like if Luke tried to take Letty's case and then David would also try for a high case, you've got 2 chances of still getting the million, even if the team switched their cases around. You'd probably get the highest value and be safe. And then maybe you still don't get the 1 million, but you have the highest value still. And then it like you're still safe. So even there, like Luke could have just guessed too, and they would have 2 chances at the 1 million.
Yeah, I was so confused by all of this. So they fumbled.
So Sydney tries to make a deal, like you mentioned. Let's trade the 750K, and then that would make both of our teams the top 2 teams. I thought it was smart to try and make a deal, like it'd be a win-win for both teams. You're potentially gaining allies and trust by making and accepting this kind of deal, and then you would send someone from the low case team into elimination. But yeah, David still thinks Letty has it, so he doesn't want to switch, but Letty has a 500K case.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder among that team how they decided who should get the $1 million case instead. Like, did they just all randomly swap without looking at the numbers? Like, Letty must have known, like, okay, I'm giving something up by giving up the $1 million case. So I wonder how they decided, if they did decide to, like, who would get the $1 million.
True. I think that would be interesting to know about. Sydney ends up with a $1 million case. Sydney just loves David in a sort of odd way here, but seems like she's starting to annoy other people throughout this entire episode. Like later in the episode, she says, like, yeah, I knew I had it. I was the team leader of this challenge. I rocked it, not giving any other people credit, and everyone was annoyed by that. And then also people were annoyed. Sydney was telling them not to help Luke in the Dondi game at the end of the episode. And then they're like, you told us not to help, but you were helping and you're giving bad information.
Yeah, I feel like Sydney also like went really hard with the like I'm in power now thing, which is kind of silly because like you're only in power for one episode, one vote, I guess you could say. So I do think she is going to rub people the wrong way, and that maybe isn't going to be best for her moving forward. I did think it was really funny. David said something like, Sydney wants to eat me, but I'm married. Back off. It's like, oh, you're so funny.
David's facial reactions too, when he's like making his like disgusted face at the camera is so funny. But I agree. I don't think Sydney's probably going to make it past like episode 3, even though Sydney loves David and like is like, you're going to be my challenge partner every single time. And if you aren't, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's a great sort of scary threat. I think David too, even though like he knows Sydney is with him, will want to try to eliminate her because she's more of a liability, I feel like, than an asset to David.
Yeah, you don't want to chain yourself to an anchor.
Yeah, and it seems like the other people are annoyed with her. I could see her getting eliminated or at least being sent into the Deal or No Deal game next few episodes, trying to get her eliminated.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder how much strategy there's going to be with the like who you send into the Deal or No Deal like game. Because if someone's really good at it, like really good at making money, maybe you keep sending them in just so that you can like up the amount of money in your pot, even if you don't actually want them going home.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting part of season 1 with Deal or No Deal Island. Like Rob, since his back was sort of against the wall a lot of times, he would try to lose so then people would let him play, or like he would have to play the Deal or No Deal game at the end. And
Mhm.
then basically, it's like the worst thing in this game, I think, would be to be eliminated if someone wins the Deal or No Deal game and they just say, like, Alyssa, you're going home. Rachel, I'm eliminating you. Like, you had no choice to that, compared to Rob's strategy was, okay, if I play the Deal or No Deal game, at least I can have it in my own hands. No one can just go up there and be like, Rob, you're eliminated, but I can choose who to eliminate. You know, you might get sent home yourself, but you could still choose who you want to go home. So I think playing the game at the end, it is risky, but it makes you have a lot of power because you're the sole decider of who goes home.
Mm-hmm. I think it just depends on how good you are at math and how good you understand the like mechanic of Deal or No Deal.
Which Luke was not. Luke, he wants to get thrown into the game. Seychelles does not want to go into the game. David is like, okay, Luke really wants to go in, but maybe I want to go in and play the game because he's afraid that Luke, if Luke won the game, would eliminate David. Like I said, I think the worst way to go is being eliminated by someone winning the Deal or No Deal game. It sort of reminds me of the worst way to go home in the Traders is being randomly murdered at the nighttime portion. Like, you just got to go and take fate into your own hands and try to go against the banker.
Yeah, so it's certainly an interesting strategic element like that, the game of Deal or No Deal, which I like. I think it's fun. But also, then it makes it doubly risky to be in one of the teams, like the smaller teams, like, for example, the Red Suitcase team, because then it's like, okay, there's only 2 people that can be eliminated if Luke did win the game. Whereas, like, if you were on, like, the Small Suitcase team, there's, I think, 7 of them, maybe? So there's a lot of other people to be eliminated.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. Not every challenge will probably be a team challenge. Like last season, the person that stood up there and played the game could eliminate anyone on the cast sometimes. So it's like you do have a lot of power. If everyone's up for grabs, you could just go up there and be like, Parvati, I know who you are. I want to eliminate you. So it can be very dangerous. It'll be interesting to see though, because we saw a lot of people approaching Parvati this episode. They said they knew who she was, but they wouldn't tell anyone else. I feel like it'll have to come out sometime that mostly a lot of people know who she is though.
Yeah, especially because like I think we saw like 4 different people all independently being like, I know who you are. And like, do these people really not talk to each other? Like, did they all just talk to Parvati without like talking to each other about it? Because I feel like it's one of those things where it might work for like an episode or two, but eventually like they're going to start trusting each other more than they trust Parvati. So I'm sure that it will come out. And obviously Dr. Will coming in, I feel like is also going to shake things up. That man could not keep his mouth closed if his life depended on it.
True. I feel like if you're one of the people that know Parvati and people are talking about Parvati on Survivor, I say maybe you fake it and pretend like, oh, I've never seen Survivor before. Like, what's her backstory? Can you share about her? Because I feel like the worst thing would be outed as like a Survivor super fan. And then you're like, yeah, I know everything about her. Like, she's so great. She did XYZ on X day. And like, she said this in episode 2. Uh, then it'd be like, oh, you're a big fan. That's a little bit scary. Like, you're one of the smarter people. If you were Parvati and David, like you'd want to keep all the like less strategic, less smart people around. So if someone's a big strategy reality TV fan, you'd be like, little bit sketchy. I feel like Dixon did it correct where he's like, he knows her, but he played it in a way like, oh yeah, like I saw you on TV. I had a big crush on you. Like now you're mom and dad, rather than like, I know everything about you and your game.
Yeah. I do think it'll be interesting to see whether or not more people know David than are like topping to knowing David. Because I think that would be more fun. Like if the story of the first episode is like everyone goes up to Parvati, and then we see flashbacks in the second episode of people also going up to David, which I don't think is going to happen. Just because, like I said, I feel like mostly people who are U.S. Survivor fans like don't even know that there are survivors in other countries. So
they got to get on that because David, the Golden God, he's so freaking great. I thought the best part of the episode was when we saw David and Parvati talking on the beach, and then Parvati is like, "Yeah, David, I don't think people know who you are except for me. I'm the super fan." And then she twirls her hair. I'm like, this was so good.
yeah, it was so much fun. So and like we said, I really like the relationship between Parvati and David, and I felt like that like initial interaction kind of set up like it being like a fun, funky relationship.
It's so exciting. So we also see Seychelle wants to try to get David out. Like, okay, this is smart. You should try to get David and Parvati out, but like, can we give them plot armor? Can they be safe? Because it's not fun when they're going to get voted out. Like, smart move for people. I think you should target David and Parvati. And it's probably also partnered with the fact that, like, if Luke won, David, she's got to save herself. She's got to throw David under the bus kind of thing. Otherwise, she'd be the one going home. So, like, okay, makes sense because David and Parvati are so smart, but like, let's not target them.
Yeah, I think they should get some plot armor. But I think Dr. Will coming into the game, which we keep saying this, it happens. They don't say that it's happening, but like it's happening. But like Dr. Will coming into the game, I feel like we'll give them at least a little more plot armor because they can just be like, he's the one who sucks. So
Yeah, I also feel like the cast maybe must have convinced Luke not to target David because I feel like Sydney wouldn't have let Luke play the game if they thought Luke would eliminate David if Luke won. Because it seemed like Sydney throughout the entire episode was like, David, 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 I need you to be safe. David, we're sleeping next to each other. All of that. So it's like, it seems like if Luke won, he would eliminate Seychelle here.
yeah, I don't really know. It seems like Seychelle also kind of was rubbing people the wrong way because of her. I guess she was being very blatant about who her alliance was. And I think that Seychelle might also find herself in some hot water if she can't learn to be a little more political with her like comments and stuff like that.
It's funny, they picked that room because it was the biggest one with 5 beds in it, but Luke was in that room and Seychelle was in that room. So technically, it's not the biggest room because Luke got eliminated. So they're back on even playing field. No more high 5, high 4.
I mean, maybe if Dr. Will gets put in the empty bed that Luke
Oh,
abandoned,
you're right.
they'll be high five again.
Dr. Will is not going to F with those people. He's going to be like, I hate all of you.
Yeah, he would not take kindly to being dismissed from the room the way that Seychelle dismissed people.
So Luke plays the game of Deal or No Deal at the end. He was just saying so many stats for his number picks. Low key, though, I feel like the Deal or No Deal game, sure, you want to try to get money in the pot for the end of the show, but high key, your only goal should be to survive the Deal or No Deal game. It seemed like Luke was so like wanting to get more money in the pot that he turned down like the 218K. That would have been a good offer to take statistically. He turned that down in hopes of maybe getting the 600K case and adding that to the pot instead. But it's like, it really doesn't matter if you eliminate the really high cases, really low cases. All you need to do is get a good deal, and you could, only add $50,000 to the pot, but you made a good deal and you're still in the game.
Yeah, I think the problem is that like with the cases he was picking, he wasn't sure whether or not he would have a good deal. Like it was just the chance of him getting a bad deal were equal to the chance of him getting a good deal. And I think that's how he justified it to himself, is he's like, oh, I don't know whether or not it would be a good deal. So
yeah, like the first offer, definitely not a good deal because there's like only 2 cases his offer was above and like 6 cases it was below. Like mathematically, bad deal. The 218K offer, that was like the second or third one from the end before he like truly messed up his game. There were 2 lower cases than that offer and only one above. So like what MK was saying. She was like, yeah, 66%. You should take this deal because 66% chance that it's a good deal because there's 2 below and only 1 above. Like you're saying, when it was 50-50, 2 below, 2 above, that's sort of like, maybe you risk it, maybe you try and say no deal and try to do another case. So then you can get a good deal. But yeah, the 218K offer, that's the one he probably should have taken because it was that 66% chance MK was talking about.
yeah. So I think you have to understand the deal or no deal mechanics. You have to understand the risk reward balance, and I feel like maybe Luke didn't.
Maybe he thought he had to open every case.
Maybe. I guess, do they explain the rules to the contestants?
They've got to, but like technically at any time the banker called, Luke would have made a good deal because he only had $1 in his case. So like
Yeah.
he really saved David and Seychelle here by sucking so much because literally any offer he would have taken would have been a good offer because his case he picked originally was so low. So it's like, dang, like we could have had an alternate universe where Seychelle or David went home here, and that would be so sad.
And that alternate universe would have sucked.
Yeah, so I'm like, Luke, so bad. But low key, it was funny, and I'm glad he eliminated himself because I was like, I don't want David to go, please.
Yeah, I think it would have been lame if David or Seychelle had gone here, just because, like I said, I feel like she is also going to be interesting TV, even if she doesn't make it that deep.
Yeah, so Luke gets himself eliminated, making so many bad decisions this episode. We go back to camp, and Maria Grace and Storm see showmance. See some more of that in the preview next time. Seems like they are having a thing on the island. I think Maria Grace, have you watched the second Hunger Games, Alyssa?
You mean the Ballad of Songbirds and
Yeah.
Snakes? I mean, technically, the second Hunger Games is Catching Fire, so we need to be more
You're right.
specific
Okay.
with our language here, Rachel. But yeah, you think she looks like Lucy Gray?
Yes.
I could see it.
Yeah, I'm like, I think she's gonna go break out in song.
I think she's also the youngest contestant on this season. So I feel like if anyone is going to get caught up in a showmance, it makes sense that it would be, I think she's 21. So
Oh,
it makes
wow.
sense that it would be the 21-year-olds.
How old is Luke?
Oh, good question.
Because I thought he was like 22 to 24. And then he's like, oh no, I just had my first divorce. And so I was like, oh, there's no
Luke
way
is
you're like,
29.
okay. He looks really young, I think.
Yeah. So.
Dang. So I'm excited for next week. Dr. Will coming in next week. This is going to cause some drama. Seems like the mom and dad duo of Parvati and David might not allow like Dr. Will to come in as that fun uncle, and seems like there might be tension between them, but low key, they got to help each other. Like if you start to vote out the big names, especially if people are Big Brother fans and they recognize Dr. Will, it's sort of difficult, I feel like, to try to vote out the other, like, big name of, oh, Survivor, Big Brother, because then people would target you after that.
Mm-hmm. I always wonder when they have someone come in like episode 2, like it seems kind of unfair because like that means that they missed a whole entire elimination like cycle. Like if David had gotten eliminated in first place and then Dr. Will gets to waltz in after David has already been eliminated, like that seems unfair.
Yeah, apparently it was something like someone was supposed to be on the show episode 1, but then like got sick or hurt or something beforehand. So like Dr. Will was the alternate, and that's why he's coming in episode 2, something like that. But Alyssa, you have to watch the new Traitor season. Just started on Peacock also. The first 3 episodes are out. And like what you were saying sort of happened to episode 1 with Rob. Like Rob doesn't get into the show, but then by the end of episode 1, he's still in the show. So it's sort of like, okay, he was always going to make it onto the show.
Yeah. I get why they do it because it's a fun way to like shake things up, but I feel like there should be like something like you're forced to enter the first elimination if you come on the show late or something like that. So.
True. I feel like episode 2 is more fun because you're only missing one. I feel like in games like The Circle, where people come in like 2 episodes before the finale, that's just like WTF kind of thing. Like, oh, that's not that good. But here, more fun because it is at the start of the show and they didn't really miss much. But yeah, I think other shows where they come in so close to the end, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But it was still enjoyable. I'm looking forward to Dr. Will coming and shaking things up. And I kind of hope that Parvati and David curb stomp him.
Yeah, I'm so excited for next week to see what's going to happen. Let us know what you thought of the season premiere of DONDI Season 2 in the comments down below. Do you think that we should recap DONDI this season, or did you just want to hear us talk about the premiere? Let us know your thoughts. I'm so excited for next week. It's going to be so much fun.
Yep, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.